Traveling southwest of the Slog, we wander through some game trails nestled between the rocks until we are surprised by a large helicopter landing pad surrounded by a big rusted fence. This appears to have come out of nowhere. There are no roads coming to or from this helicopter landing pad. Why is it here? What purpose did it serve? We see a staircase leading down from the helicopter landing pad, which leads to a hidden bunker built right into the rock. This is Listening Post Bravo. As we get close, the bunker security notices us.
Come on, nothing's gonna save you now. Don't forget to check your ammo levels.
And heading through the door, we have to destroy a Protectron. The bunker is really tiny. There's a desk in the middle of the room with a big blasted out terminal on top, and lying on the floor is the corpse of a military serviceman still in uniform. He fell out of his seat. Against the wall is a locked security gate with an advanced lock, and inside we find some ammunition and a tool case to loot. There's a duffel bag on a shelf nearby, some purified water on the desk, and in the back of the bunker we find an elevator. But it's non-functional. Right next to it, however, is a wall-mounted terminal protected with a master lock. After hacking it, we can now activate the elevator. Heading inside, we can push the button to go down. Looking up, we see that this car doesn't have the hatch we usually find in these elevators, so there's no way to jump up on top and explore the shaft. Once we reach the bottom, the elevator lets us out into a brightly lit room. There is another turret on a wall, but it appears to be non-active. We can't destroy it. We see a wooden crate against the wall, some shelves with minor food items, and then two workbenches, an armor and a weapons workbench. There are lots of terminals and monitors and computer banks. This, along with the name Listening Post, gives me the impression that the military was doing a lot of monitoring here, possibly monitoring radio waves. There's a giant hole in the concrete wall, and on the other side, we see a yaoguai walking around.
Already dead. Why do they even try?
Before exploring that cave, we can finish exploring this room. We see two blasted out Protectrons. I wonder why these are broken, but the one upstairs was not. There's a working terminal on a desk next to an ammo box. We'll explore this in a minute. And we find some mentats on another terminal. There's also a big broken door, which we can't get through, but we do see a room on the other side of this wall. So heading through the hole in the wall, we can go into the cave to continue exploring, and we see a pool of water at the bottom of the cave, where the yaoguai has dragged a lot of meat and bones. Here we find quite a number of human skeletons embedded in the mud, big chunks of what appears to be Brahmin meat floating by a barrel, and then pale skeletons lying just beneath the water's surface. The water is so murky that we can only see them by shining a lamp at them. I'm presuming these bones are here because of the yaoguai, but I wonder how the yaoguai got here to begin with. We don't see a way out of this little cave, and the only other entrance is the elevator, which has been locked for 200 years. We just unlocked it. Perhaps there was a tunnel that went outside, maybe in the wall of the cave, maybe under the pool, but it caved in recently, trapping the yaoguai here. At any rate, the cave opens up to the west, and we can go through a broken wall to enter another large room. Here we find some filing cabinets to loot, we see some grape mentats stacked up on a monitor, and we find an end-of-dungeon steamer trunk. We also find one more human skeleton. This one appears to be much older than the ones we found in the yaoguai den, and it looks like he too fell out of his chair. Now, those who have played through the Brotherhood of Steel line of quests for Fallout 4 will recognize Listening Post Bravo as an important set for one of the biggest twists in the game. I covered that twist in my video dedicated to the topic called Blind Betrayal. That video does contain spoilers, and so I'm not going to talk about it to avoid spoilers in this one. If you're interested, you can watch Blind Betrayal by clicking here. The last thing we need to do is check out the terminal that we saw in the other room. This is the monitoring terminal. Hopping out of our power armor and accessing it, we find 5 logs. These are Listening Point Bravo monitoring reports. These reports were written by Sergeant J.P. Renkse. In Report 10, Captain Rutledge ordered me to take over long-range monitoring today. That means 4 weeks stuck in this bunker with only military rations, old magazines, and a transistor radio to keep me company. However, I'll try and make the best of it by doing my job and monitoring the airways for any suspicious transmissions. Maybe next month I'll get a more interesting assignment, but for now, it's time to kiss the light of day goodbye for a month. One may wonder why they would have a listening post in Boston monitoring radio waves, and I think that's because Fallout lore has clearly established that the Chinese have pretty much infiltrated mainland America. They have secret spy bases all over the place. We stumble upon quite a few of them in the capital wasteland. Where America excelled at power armor, the Chinese excelled at subterfuge. It is they who created the stealth suits, which America used to create the stealth boy. So it's likely this post was here to pick up unusual radio transmissions from local secret Chinese spy bases. And the next one, number 14, had a strange incident today. I was monitoring the low band frequencies, the stuff normally used by outdated equipment, when I came across a very strange repeating message. It was in English, but it was very difficult to make out due to all the static. It stopped broadcasting after about an hour, but I made out a few phrases. Internal void, dreams are getting darker, and blood runs so still. The only other thing I picked up was what I assumed to be a call sign, D-E-K. I'm going to send these phrases over to translation in Washington as soon as possible. In the next report, number 16, I haven't heard a thing from Washington yet, so I assume they haven't come up with any answers. While I was waiting, I decided to continue monitoring that same frequency around the clock. I tuned in, but I haven't heard anything in 4 days. I'm getting awfully anxious to hear something new, or for the translation guys to tell me what the heck I had heard. But for now, I'll just have to wait. In the next one, Report 20. I woke up today to a banging noise on the elevator door, like someone was trying to get in. I looked at the readout and it said that the elevator has been in its lockdown position since I got here, so that doesn't make any sense. I decided to activate the bunker's defense system as a precaution and broke out the emergency rifle we keep locked up down here. I have to admit, a cold chill was running down my spine. The banging continued for almost an hour straight. Then it stopped. I don't know why, but I have the strange feeling that this is somehow related to the mysterious broadcast I intercepted. In the final one, number 25. It's been 5 days since the banging on the elevator, and Washington finally broke radio silence to tell me that the holotape recording they received from me was blank. When I listened to my local playback, I discovered that they were right. My tape had nothing on it. When I mentioned the noises I heard, they told me it was possible I was experiencing auditory hallucinations from being isolated for so long. They said to hang tight and they'd send someone out to relieve me. It's possible that this isolation did something to my mind. Maybe I wanted to find a mystery to solve to occupy the time so badly, my imagination decided to take over. Whatever it was, I hope this doesn't go down on my permanent record. None of these logs are dated. We don't know how long before the apocalypse these events happened to Sergeant Renkse. But going over to look at the elevator, it doesn't make any sense. Renkse is right. The only way in and out of this bunker is through this one elevator, and it was locked when we arrived. The car was completely locked down, stuck at the top of this shaft. There was nothing but a shaft on the other side of this door, and not even a platform to stand upon, so who could have been banging on this elevator door? Heading through the cave to the other room, we can take a look at this skeleton. This is the only skeleton down here aside from the ones we find in the yaoguai cave. I believe those were prey, and that this must be the corpse of Sergeant Renkse. This terminal is blasted out. We don't know what was on it. Perhaps it was the terminal he used to record the holotapes, and maybe he was playing it back again for himself when the bombs dropped, his bunker collapsed, and he died. It's clear he must have died in the initial blast. His body lies right next to all of this rubble. He could have been smashed in the head by some of the falling cement. But what's puzzling to me is these protectrons. I understand why the machine gun turrets were active when we arrive. Renkse said that he activated bunker security as a precaution. This also explains the Protectron that attacked us when we arrived, but these 2 Protectrons are already destroyed. Surely Renkse wouldn't have activated security having forgot about these 2 Protectrons and then had to destroy them himself, but we don't see anyone else down here who destroyed these Protectrons. Well, maybe it was the yaoguai. Maybe the yaoguai tunneled up into this cave from under the pool, managed to come on in here and kill these Protectrons. But we also don't find the rifle. Remember he said that he took his rifle out of storage as a precaution? But we don't find a rifle here, unless you count the randomly generated loot that appears in the steamer trunk, which I suppose is possible. Heading back topside, we also have this second skeleton to explain. We recall that Renkse was isolated. He was going to be here by himself for a month. The elevator was completely locked down. What was this guy doing here? Why was he sitting at this desk? What was the point of this terminal? Did Renkse know this guy was up here? I suppose it's possible that this guy was the relief that Washington sent to relieve the sergeant. Perhaps he was on his way down into the bunker when the bombs dropped. He died up here, and Sergeant Renkse died below. If that's the case, this wouldn't explain the banging, because Washington said they were only going to send relief after Sergeant Renkse sent them the blank recording. But it was a recording of banging he heard the previous day. It would have been impossible for this guy to both be his relief and to be responsible for banging on that door. The only way this guy could have been the one who banged on the door is if he had been here the whole time, which I suppose is possible. Maybe Sergeant Renkse didn't realize that someone else was stationed here at the bunker. Maybe the military told him that he was the only one here to keep his mind focused on his job, to prevent him from wanting to go upstairs and socialize with other people. Perhaps this guy had a different job up here and was a bit mischievous. On a lark one day, he wanted to have some fun. He uses the terminal next to the elevator to unlock it. He goes all the way down, but instead of opening the door, he just bangs on it hard for an hour. But what he doesn't know is that this startled Sergeant Renkse so much that Renkse activated the bunker security. When he goes back to the top, he walks out of the elevator to discover that one of the Protectrons was loose. Maybe the Protectron that we find active when we arrive is the one that killed this guy lying on the ground. But none of this explains the strange radio transmission that Renkse said he heard. He picked up very specific words. Internal void. Dreams are getting darker. Blood runs so still. And then he mentioned a mysterious call sign, DEK. What could this all mean? Well, the first and most obvious answer is that this is a reference to the Swedish metal band called Catatonia. Specifically, the phrases that Renkse picked up on the radio transmission are lyrics from their 2012 song Dead Letters, published on their album Dead End Kings.
Internal void. My dreams are getting darker and darker. Its blood runs so still.
The rest of the lyrics remind us of the fate of Sergeant Renkse. Trapped and choked, confined in escape, liar in wait for the ending. Renkse was trapped down here for an entire month, and here he sat waiting for the end of the world. The song gives a clear post-apocalyptic vibe, especially when watching the music video that the band released along with it. In the music video, they show off some of the artwork that they released with their album, and this artwork includes a lot of destroyed buildings, skyscrapers, and cities. The name of the song itself may even hint at further meaning. It's called Dead Letters. And what are all of these logs, journals, and messages that we find on all of these terminals throughout the wasteland but dead letters? Letters written by the dead. We could break this down even further because each of these dead letters are made from letters from people who are dead, making them dead letters within dead letters. If we wanted to squeeze even more out of this, well then we can't ignore the crows. One of the lines reads, "The call of the bird." And a lot of the imagery we find in the music video is of birds, and specifically crows. Crows perched on telephone wires, crows flying over skyscrapers. And when I published my video called The Watchers, we learned that the Institute had made what? Synth crows. Synth crows that watch, synth crows that do what Sergeant Renkse was doing. They sit on telephone wires and they listen. They spy for their side. When we couple this information with the knowledge of what Listening Post Bravo was used for, when we get to the quest Blind Betrayal, the fact that the crows are synths may carry even further meaning. But the biggest evidence that this is indeed a reference to the band Catatonia are the initials we find on the terminal. Remember, the sergeant said that he heard what he thought was a call sign, DEK. Well, DEK is an abbreviation of the Catatonia album name, Dead End Kings, upon which we find the song Dead Letters, which had the lyrics that he heard on the radio. So that is the real-world reference, but how do we explain this in the lore? Part of me would be really disappointed to learn that all of this suspense, intrigue, and mystery was just about one developer giving a shout-out to his favorite Swedish metal band. Instead, this reference could be two things, a shout-out to the metal band and also a canonical piece of lore. Because after all, the supernatural is not alien in the Fallout universe. Well, it may be alien, but it's not alien. What I'm trying to say is that the supernatural may be of alien origin, but it's not strange to the Fallout universe. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, as we learned in my video on Dunwich Borers, there are artifacts buried under the earth, possibly of alien origin, and these artifacts interact with the world around them in what appears to be a supernatural way. They mess with people's minds. They cause visions. As we walk around Dunwich Borers, we get flashbacks to the past. We see things we could have never seen. Snippets of moments in time that we get to rewatch as if they were recordings. The fact that this bunker is buried deep underground may make a connection to these alien artifacts more feasible. Perhaps whatever power is trying to communicate with humanity through these visions and flashbacks can also do so through radio frequencies. Now, I don't know what they're trying to say with these messages, nor why they would bang on the door, but we do know that once they find a compatible human specimen, that they can communicate very well with that human. We learned that when listening to Hugo's holotape in Hugo's Hole, and we learned that when talking with Lorenzo. Both of these people had direct communication with the artifacts, or whatever power is stored up within those artifacts. It may be that this bunker had been built really close to some underground buried alien artifacts, and that these artifacts were reaching out to Sergeant Renkse, trying to communicate with him. When they failed to do so over radio frequencies, they resorted to the physical and banged on the door for an hour. Or perhaps they weren't communicating over radio frequencies at all, because remember, the recording was blank. Maybe the artifacts were whispering to the sergeant, but he convinced himself that they were really coming over the radio because it was the only way he could explain the words. Or perhaps this is a reference to the ability for people and events in one timeline to interact with those from another. We know that the Great Divergence happened in the 1950s. That's where our world split from the Fallout world and went on its own timeline. Now in our world, we have the band Catatonia. That band made the album Dead End Kings, and on that album they released the song Dead Letters, which likely played over the radio at some time. Now, we don't know if all of those things happened in the Fallout universe, but what if Sergeant Renkse underground, listening to rarely used radio frequencies, managed somehow to tap into some radio frequencies in our universe? It was really low quality, which is why it was mostly static and he only picked out a few words, but he overheard a song being played from our universe that appears in our world long after the divergence, and he quickly jotted down the only words he could pick out. Internal void, dreams are getting darker, blood runs so still. Ultimately, we have no answers. We have only evidence and theories. These were my theories, but what are yours? Who do you think is the ghost from Listening Post Bravo? How do you explain the words the sergeant heard over the radio? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of topics spanning all of the games. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss tomorrow's video, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I have a new shirt in the shop, folks. Build mass with sass. Drink Sunset Sarsaparilla. That's right, everyone's favorite soda beverage from Fallout New Vegas is alive and well in the Oxhorn store. On the front, we have a muscle man lifting weights, and on the back, we've got good old Festus giving us his silly old advisory. You can get this as a shirt, sweatshirt in a variety of sizes and colors, also as a mug or a sticker. You can find a link to my shop in the description below or by clicking here. Thanks so much for watching, folks. If you like what I do, and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching the video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.